Boom, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show, the Crooked Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spook Realm 4Q, you are first in the building as usual. And since you are here, first, let's do the PSA real quick. Rule number one, if you're not a sucker, get the book. My brother's name is Kenny. For those that's new to the channel, it's the true origin story of BDP, KRS-One, Kenny Parker. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff in there. The link is in the description below, and the audiobook is ready too. So if you don't have it, get it. And I will be doing a live coming up soon for the audiobook only. So we can talk about that and have a nice discussion for those that have read it. Second, if you get a chance, please hit the thumbs up so we can get more like-minded people into the channel. It helps the algorithm. I say it all the time, but I'll say it one more time. Please hit the thumbs up. And last but not least, big up to the Rewind crew who's going to check this out later on. And let's check out the ER, the early regular crew, right now. Let's make this a little bit bigger so I can see. And real quick, I'm gonna say this a couple of times. I hope somebody reminds me. Next Friday, I will not be here. We will not have a Kenny Parker show on Friday because I will be at the KRS-One show here in New York City. And I don't know what time it starts, but I know it's probably in that time frame. Um, so I think I will do a special on Saturday. So I'm going to move the Kenny Parker Show Friday to Saturday this week coming. So I'm going to try to remind you guys a couple more times. I think I made this a little bit too bigger. A little bit too bigger, like my English. Okay, let's run through some of this. B-Boy Jones and what's up? And I was happy to see this right here. Haitian Space Program. What's up, Kenny? I've been catching a rewind and hitting the like button. Thank you so much, Haitian Space Program. You know you are a true ER and a true rewind and a live. You are a true family member to this channel, and I'm glad to see that you are doing well. B-Boy Jones and what up? Gregory Nettis. Yeah, the plane crash in New York City, uh, a mix-up on the runway, and the pilot and the co-pilot died. It's ridiculous how these things could not keep happening, but how mistakes happen. But in 2025, man, 2026, this can't keep happening. Uh, and I don't like to fly either. But I try to tell myself whenever I get on a plane that supposedly flying is the safest means of transportation, and it's some multiple numbers time safer than driving, but it sure doesn't feel like it when something goes wrong. Um, Rod Justice, what up? Explicit Hip Hop, what up? um, Let me move down. The ER crew is having their own ER conversation. MK Ultra. 1, 2, 3. The crew is called DJ KP. I like that. Rosmel, what up? Supreme Divine, what's good? Imperial J the MC, haven't seen you in a minute. What's up? Sydney Rhodes. Some nice regulars in the building today. Engage VR, haven't seen you in a minute. So you guys talking about the Final Four. You know what always gets me about March Madness? How in the beginning of the tournament, there's 64 teams, now a little more with the play-ins, and how everyone is so happy to make the tournament. We're going to the dance. And you have all of the teams, they show them getting announced and who they're gonna play, and it's such a celebration, and the whole school is behind you in the community, and you be on the news, and it's a whole thing. And then when the losing starts, you just see the tears and the heartbreak on both the men's and women's side, because really only one team is gonna win, and that means 64, 65 other teams are gonna have heartbreak. And it happens in days. So you go from we're going to the dance, exhilaration to the heartbreak of losing, especially if you're a senior and it's over. Um, I talk about that experience in the book. The link is in the description below. But it's just crazy to see it every year. Um, Yeah, I just saw that. Explicit says, Kenny, you did answer my question about Will Smith. What I meant by Will failing is that his camp or whatever didn't have you on the album. Yeah, for those that saw my last Epic Fail Will Smith edition, um, usually it's the camp. For the second story, it's more of a administrative decision. But for the first story, I don't know. I mean, he heard a lot of beats, but and he liked my beat at the time. I think if the album started at that moment when when I played him the beat, I might have been on the album. I thought it was a dope beat. It worked out well for Heather, so all's good. Um, let's see. Latrice Washington, hey, what's up? Henry Cedillo, Patrick Y, what up? Duke must be the most hated college basketball team of all time. Easy. That's not even must be. That's easy. They've had some real villains over the years, too. It started with that Christian Laettner team. And it's because, all teams that win a lot have a lot of hate, like the Yankees. Um, but Duke, it started with Christian Laettner. They've had some good villains. Christian Laettner, um, JJ Redick was a big villain. I forgot my man's name, the white kid that plays for the Phoenix Suns right now. I think he plays for Phoenix. Who was borderline dirty, um, borderline getting thrown out of games. They all end up being good players too, good college players. Um, but yeah, Duke is definitely the most hated college team. I think it started with Christian Laettner. I think it started with Christian Laettner stomped on that dude from Kentucky when he was on the ground. They should have threw him out for that. And I'm a Dookie, but he should have been out for that. Jason Wall, what up? Um, Rod Justice, today in hip hop history, MF Doom released his sixth solo album, Born Like This, on March 24th, 2009. Rest in peace, MF Doom. JT, what's up? Uh, The Real Chef Daddy. I'm seeing some names I haven't seen in a minute. MMA Crossfire, of course. Fire! Um, Sweet Goldilocks, what's up? Here's a name I don't recognize. New Mexico citizen. Yo, Kenny. New Mexico citizen. Never been to New Mexico. I can say that with confidence. Samuel Gervais, what up? Uh, Engaged as Cold Crush. Yeah, I saw that, I think yesterday. JDL of the Cold Crush passed away. Um, he is probably the one member of Cold Crush that I knew the least. Uh, The other three members of Cold Crush, I used to see out and about. They used to be outside a lot in the 90s. And of course, I was out, as we all know. So I used to see them all out and about. Um, of course, Kaz being the one that I've seen the most. But Cold Crush is probably, not probably, definitely the most influential group of the first era, the Pioneers era. I would say they're as influential as Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. No, let me not say that because Flash's influence on hip hop takes it to another level. I would say the Cold Crush is as influential as the Furious Five is as MCs. As a matter of fact, I always look at everybody's, not everybody's, but most people's behind the scenes stories of how they came about. And just about every MC in the 80s, just about every one, you ask them, who were you listening to when you were an aspiring MC? And to the letter, they say they had those Cold Crush tapes, and specifically Grandmaster Caz um, influenced just about everybody in the 80s. I mean, Melly Mel gets mentioned a lot in that era. Some people consider him the best in that era. My favorite Furious Five member was Cowboy, uh, who also invented a lot of the slogans that we say today. But Grandmaster Caz, and the fact that it was his lyrics in Sugar Hill's Rapper's Delight that kicked off the whole movement worldwide. Um, Cold Crush is right at the top. I would say right at the top, if not first but second to Furious Five and the most influential groups of the time. And the sad part is, unlike their contemporaries, they never had the one record. The reason that separated Cold Crush from everyone else, they were dope on Wild Style, the Wild Style tapes, movie, and their tapes, and but they never had the one, that Treacherous 3 had one, and the Fearless 4 had one. And there was Rockin' It, Fearless 4, and every one of the early groups had, even Crash Crew, everybody had a song that you can say, what does this group sing? And you can say they sing this. But the Cold Crush are known for the tapes. Even that record, He's Fresh, He's Fly. I think that's probably their most uh, recognizable one. I would say that was a moderate song. I wouldn't say that was a hit. If they had the record, I think they would have been mentioned way more, and Kaz would have probably been the MC of his time. And it's sad because really, Cold Crush should have been on Rapper's Delight, at least Kaz. But Rapper's Delight should have been a Cold Crush record. Let me not say should have been because I believe things work out the way they worked out. But it in a different universe, in a parallel universe, that's a Cold Crush record, and Kaz and them reached the heights that they were supposed to. But rest in peace to JDL, and condolences to his family. Um, and long live the Cold Crush. Um, Johnny Lee, what's up? I don't recognize this name. JP underscore farm D. What's up? Philly Sheed, what's going on? Um, KP, will you do the audio discussion on a day other than Tuesday or Friday lives? Yes, I'm gonna pick a different day to knock that out. Uh, let's see. Best white music playlist. I believe it's YT, best white tea. Danielle Don Freeman, what's up? Um, Explicit says, "We forgive you, Kenny. You're going to your brother's show. Thank you so much for understanding." Uh, um, but yeah, I will be at the KRS-One show. MMA says, "I have the book and the audio book. You are the best. Thank you." Um, Live interview with KRS before after the show. It's very hard to talk to Chris before shows. Maybe after. I'll see, but I'm going to be there mostly checking things out, and I'll probably be talking to a bunch of people my damn self. So we'll see how it goes. Um, if I do get to talk to him, probably be on a phone or something. We'll see. Cynthia, what's up, Sid? um, 49 Nell, what's up? Long time no see. Says rest in peace to JDO. Yeah, man. I'm seeing that coming up here. Yeah, JDO. This is random. Says Cap's Winter Wars verse was epic. I think that's one of the greatest verses. And he did more than 16. It seemed like it was like a 20 bars. If someone ever asked me, name somebody who you felt was rapping for their life. Like somebody said, "Yo, your life depends right now, or you are eating for food to feed you're rapping for food to feed your babies. Go." And I would point them to Capadonna's verse on Winter Wars. It seemed like he did it in one take, and he just blazed that record. I listen to that all the time, actually. Jack Swagger, what's up? The number one set and sound. Um, let's see. Ewing could have easily had 3 chips. You mean in college? Yeah, they lost two. They lost two at crazy losses. The first freshman year when Jordan terrorized that dude his whole life, man. The freshman year when Jordan hit the jumper to beat them, and then Fred Brown threw the ball to James Worthy. They were right there. One play here or there, and they could have won the chip. And then the year when Villanova literally played the perfect game, and they won by what, 1 point? Villanova played the perfect game against the best defensive team in the country. I believe they shot something like 85% for the game. Villanova shot 85% for the game, I believe, and won by 1, upset Georgetown. I think the point guard, Gary, I can't remember his last name, Gary, the point guard, was on drugs, was high the whole time. He said he was high during the game. He was high when they went to the White House to visit the president. This guy, who Georgetown was, their press was so devastating. And only 2 people I've ever seen really handle their press, maybe 2.5. Pearl Washington shredded that press his freshman year. And Gary, can't remember his last name, from Villanova, I think he had 0 turnovers or 1 turnover in 40 minutes of pressure, but he was high. But um, they should have won that game too. And I remember when St. John's beat Georgetown that same year that Villanova beat them. The first time St. John's beat them, Chris Mullen was handling the rock. Remember, he did a really good job against the Georgetown pressure. Then when they met in the Final Four, Georgetown beat them down, but St. John's beat them in the regular season. I remember that. And Mullen did a great job against their pressure. But yeah, Ewing could have easily had 3 chips in college. Thank you so much for this. Grayson Allen. He is dirty, no borderline. Yeah. Grayson Allen is a villain. They had that dude Wojciechowski too. Wojciechowski, am I saying his name? These are real villains, man. But Grayson Allen was a dirty player. He was like getting a flagrant like every game. I have a friend who played for in the ACC back in the 80s, played for Virginia, and he told me that Bob Ferry was not Danny Ferry. Wait a minute. Danny Ferry, Bob Ferry is the father, so it's Danny Ferry is the son. One of them Ferries that played for Duke was very dirty as well. He told me that. Um, so, like I said, Leitner was a villain when he made it into the '92 Dream Team. They had to pick one guy from college, and most people say it should have been Shaq. Shaq was probably the best player in the country, but Christian Leitner was the player of the year. He was the National College Player, NCAA Player of the Year on every poll, I believe. And so they picked him, but it could have been Shaq. Just wondering if Biz and KRS ever recorded a song together. Not to my knowledge. Uh, yeah, I see some people saying, yeah, Grayson Allen is the one who I think you meant is a recent Duke villain. Yeah. Grayson Allen from Duke to Phoenix, grimy player. He type of dude that tries to hurt people. Like, somebody should, not should, I'm not going to say that, but in another era, he would have really caught hands. Jason, well, I remember the Johnny Dawkins, Mark Allery Duke team. That was my team. That's how I first got on Duke. Johnny Dawkins, Tommy Amaker, Jay Billis, Mark Allery. That team was tough. Um, Duke has also been on many worst fans lists. Yeah, I've heard that too. My man who went to Virginia, who played against Duke, he was saying how the Duke student body section will study the other team looking for things to chant at the game. So if you have low grades, if you ever got arrested or drunk driving or anything that they can use, they will have whole chants against you at the game in Cameron Indoor Stadium. So yeah, they might have the worst and most clever fans, because to really do that kind of research is diabolical, man. Yes, D Nizzy, R.I.P. to JDL from the Cold Crush. Um, CMC, what up? Dre Stack Dollars, all the regulars in here today, man. Um, Jason Wilson, one of the Boogie Boys followed me on Instagram. That's dope. Fly, 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 fly girls was banging. Fly girls, that record was hot in New York. Divine Sounds, What People Do for Money, classic top 10 song for me. That was great. They had another one, was it the Bed-Stuy? Bed-Stuy. Um, the record Bed-Stuy Do or Die, was that their first record? That used to bang in New York too. I think it was Bed-Stuy Do or Die. I was living in Bed-Stuy when that record was out too. Christopher Caldwell, what up on your break? What's good? DJ Joey Joe, Sydney Rose. I used to love UNLV and talk to Shark. Me too. Biting on that towel. I remember that first year when they blew out Duke in the championship, and then Duke came back and beat them the following year. You know who was my dude on that team? There was another that team that had Larry Johnson. My dude was Anderson Hunt, man. I thought Anderson Hunt was going to be a really good NBA player. I was wrong, but I really liked Anderson Hunt in college. Um, that UNLV team with Larry Johnson was tough, and the one with Armand Gilliam was tough too. And imagine if Lloyd Daniels had made it to that team. I have a Lloyd Daniels story, by the way, a really funny one. I should do it as an epic fail, actually. I don't know if people would watch my basketball epic fails, but I have a few. I have one that's in the book. The link is in the description below. I have a really good epic fail in the book about Pearl Washington. I have a few. I have tons of basketball epic fails. I should do them like a basketball edition. I have a good one about Lloyd Daniels. Um, Hubert Davis's fate at UNC looks sealed. Yeah, I think they fired him today, didn't they? Oh, let's see. Let me move down a little bit. Yeah, Fresh, Fly, Wild, and Bold. Patrick Wild. That was I think that's their most known record because Red Alert used to play that. I think Mr. Magic used to play that too in New York, but that was a moderate record. Um, I would say that wasn't enough. Like they needed that one, the one that let's see. Brooklyn Geek, one of the best shows I've ever attended, 1998, Cold Crush Anniversary, Chris Kane and Biz. Was I there? Was I DJing? I was the DJ in 98. Was I there? Let's see. Melly's delivery on B Street is the ultimate. Yeah, Melly Mel is widely considered the best MC of that time. Although for me, he is there's three. To me, there's like three. There's like four, but that's too much. But because see, Melly Mel was part of a group. And for me, I separate groups from soloists. So you can't say someone is the best of their era and they're in a group because it's different with a group dynamic. The Furious Five was probably the best group because they had hits. So that would put them over Sugar Hill. They were better than Sugar Hill and put them over Cold Crush because they had hits. But Kumo D, go listen to Kumo D's Busy Bee battle in 81 and listen to this rhymes and rhyme style that Kumo D came with in 1981. And you tell me that is not next level. My three are really Melly Mel, although Cowboy is my favorite Furious Five, but I'm gonna say Melly Mel, Kaz, and Kumo D to me were the three nicest MCs of that era. But my man Spoonie Spoon too. Don't sleep on Spoonie G, man. Love rap and Spoon and rap. I mean, that dude was holding records down by himself, man. I'm just saying, of course, y'all know how I feel about super rhymes too. Um, but yeah, Melly Mel. It's just that people just stamp him. He was just the best, like head and shoulders above everybody else. And it's just my opinion. He may have been the best, but I don't know if he's head and shoulders above everyone else. Damn, Patrick, wow, you just said everything I just said. Kaz is like the Pee Wee Kirkland or Joe Hammond of rap. During the cassette only days, he was definitely a top three MC up there with Melly Mel, Kumo D, Super Ron, Willie G. Damn, we are connected, Patrick. Wow. We are connected, bro. That's exactly how I feel. Roswell says Cass said the same thing. Rappers Delight should have been a cold crush record if Hank would have done the right thing. I think that's one of the biggest crimes in music history. What Hank did to Cass. Not only that, I'm not going to take anything away from Master G and Wonder Mike because they were great on that record. And like I mentioned last week, I thought Wonder Mike's intro to Rapper's Delight was the perfect intro for the world to hear rap. I just think that it should have been Wonder Mike, Master G, and Cass on that record. And then Cold Crush should have been signed to Sugar Hill, and the rest would have been history. But instead, you know, Jeffrey Guilty Peace KP. When is Chris doing a show and where? It's I don't remember where. It's in New York on Friday. Um, I can't remember where, but there are flyers out. I think if you go on his Instagram page, there's a flyer up. Eminem at one point was rapping for his life as well. Yeah, there's moments. MCs have moments, a few, a handful, where you could say they rhymed like this is it. Like they rhymed for a record deal. Like they're in front of an executive in front of a desk and they say, okay, you want this deal? Let me hear what you got. And dude just came with the most dopest heart. Because it's not just the rhymes, it's the delivery. I was listening to Pharoah Monch on Oh No, Look Who Hit in the Front Door. And he's like, Pharoah Monch, you do your the way he's rapping on that record, like, yo, this is it, man. Oh man. That's funny. See, Rose says Villanova was on that Booger Sugar. Yeah, I'm not gonna say Villanova. Um, we don't know for sure. Big up Easy Ed Pinkney from the Bronx. I think Dwayne McClain, Gary McClain, that was his name. It was a Dwayne McClain and Gary McClain. Um, but Gary McClain admitted to being on substances during the game and at the White House. So he was just in it. Poetic says, I was just wondering, Kenny, how's your book doing? Because I have a copy of it. It's doing it well, it's been out for a couple of years now. It's done very, very well. Very well. Thank you so much. But I just released the audio at the beginning of the month. So I'm doing almost like a re-release. Nova won that game because there was no shot clock. Yeah, maybe, but everyone played by the same rules. So um Georgetown was steamrolling everybody. They was heavily favored in that game. B-Boy Jones says, KP, you're right. Villanova went 22 for 26 for 78.6% versus Georgetown. That is a ridiculous stat against the best defense in the country with a press that was suffocating. And they'll fight you if you go to the hole. They'll flagrant you and then fight you. And the coach was with it. If you shoot 78% in any game, that's a blowout. If a team shoots 78% against you, that's a blowout. They had to shoot 78% to win that game by one. Crazy. Michael Graham was not on Georgetown. Yeah, he came the next year and he took them to another level. But they were still heavily favored. I thought Michael Graham was going to be a good pro. We should do just a rundown of who did you think, based on their college performances, would have been a really good pro. And just not only were they not, I'm talking about not somebody who was a good role player in the pros. I'm talking about somebody who barely made it or like was in the pros for like a year, like Michael Graham. I thought Michael Graham was so ready for the NBA, and he just fizzled quick. Per Washington is probably my number one. Uh, Villanova wouldn't have won that game today with the 30-second shot clock. Maybe, maybe not. It was just one of those perfect storms. It's one of those perfect storms because Georgetown was trying to speed up the game by pressing, but you couldn't press Gary McLean because he was on that. He was high. KP, please tell me you saw the Afro Man trial. I did not see the trial. We talked about this on Friday. I didn't see the trial. I just saw the results. But it looked like it was a spectacle. Bebo Jones says, Biz and Heavy D, We Write the Songs was a classic. Yes, it was. Loved that record. And there's a version on YouTube of Biz doing that with Heavy D at the Apollo. Heavy D bodied. Biz always told me that that record was one of the records, one of the reasons that gave him confidence to sing Just a Friend. When he was singing on that song and it worked, it was like, okay, I can do this. Uh, Yep, Derek Mallory. This is one of many grudges that Shaq. Shaq might be one of the pettiest people in the history of basketball, but Shaq is still holding that grudge to this day because they chose Leitner over him. Yes, and you bring that up, you can see his whole face change, man. But he was supposed to be on that team based on the best player in the country, but based on the awards, he wasn't. Leitner was the college player of the year. Christian Laettner on the 92 Dream Team was foul. I said it. It wasn't foul. It was, every Dream Team, every All-Star team, every All-Pro team, there's going to be snubs. There's only so many spots. And there was one spot. I wonder why Shaq didn't play on that college team, though, that played against the Dream Team, that warmed up exhibition games to warm up the Dream Team. Wonder why Shaq wasn't on that team. That was a tough squad too, that college team. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was foul. Foul is Isaiah Thomas not being on the Dream Team. He was clearly a top 10 player in the league. Clearly it was political. He clearly should have been on that team. But because of his antics, and because Jordan, one of a few, but because Jordan didn't want to play with him, he was off that team. Now that's foul. Duke Chant, JR can't read. Yeah. Yeah, Patrick White, Gary McLean. Villanova shot 78%. Every non-Big East team was terrified of Georgetown, and they barely won, shooting 78%. Yeah. I know St. John's beat them early in the year. Chris Mullin was spectacular in that game. If you never experienced that Georgetown pressure, man, and they was mean and nasty too. And if you managed to beat the pressure, there was Patrick Ewing that you was about to run into. KB Play, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. This is Bumpy Knuckles on Gangstars, the militia. Yeah, his delivery is always high energy. Shout out to Bumpy, who was a guest on this channel. For those that didn't see my Bumpy interview, um, yeah, he went hard. How far behind am I? Not that far. Let's see. Uh, I agree with this, Mike Wax. The original Dream Team was godly, so they don't count. The best Dream Team as a team was Dream Team 2. Oh, there hasn't been a better team than Dream Team 2. No, I think Dream Team 1 was the best team. Dream Team 1 was nobody's beating that team. That's the best team ever assembled, in my opinion. I think that's the best 12 basketball players assembled ever. And imagine if you had caught them in their primes. Like, imagine if you could pick them on their primes. Could you imagine? Uh, let's see. Aaron Henderson, you have a great memory, KP. Don't know how you remember all these props. I don't either. um, I don't know why I remember certain things, but I do. I remember watching these things live, and you know what it is? Maybe it was just so exciting to me. The excitement level was so high. Um, I don't know why I remember certain things. Like even my book, I remember a lot of stuff that, and this is off the top of my head, a lot of stuff that I was able to share. I don't know how I remember this stuff, tell you the truth. Donald McCall, you remember the fight between Alonzo and Johnson when Van Gundy grabbed Morning's leg trying to break up the fight? Yes, I remember that. The funniest fight of all time. And the funny part was Lonzo Mourning barely even recognized that Van Gundy was on his leg. Like he barely even acknowledged him. Like Van Gundy was like a little puppy on his leg. Like he didn't even acknowledge him. He just kept on. And when Van Gundy finally came out of the scrum, he was mad. Like he looked like he wanted smoke. You remember? You remember how Van Gundy looked when he got up? He looked like he wanted it all. Oh, people's pick. Ralph Sampson. No, Ralph Sampson is a Hall of Famer. He had a very good NBA career. Not, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer for his NBA career, but I wouldn't put Ralph Sampson on the list of people who I thought would be great. He was a decent player. Um, yeah, Randolph Childress had the best NCAA basketball tournament ever, 107 points in 3 days, an ACC record. Yeah, I remember that crossover step back. I think that one of the nastiest in-game crossovers I've ever seen. Because then the dude fell. He told him to get up. He paused and told the dude to get up, and then he stuck the three. Randolph Childress was nice at Wake Forest. Nick Van Exel was a all-star, I believe. I'm not going to count him. Jack Harlow is the white DEI backlash no one asked for. Yeah, we talked about Jack Harlow last Tuesday. Uh yeah, Jack Harlow. I don't understand what he was talking about. He needed a lot of clarity. Brooklyn Geek, nah, KP. KRS performed with her dad at Cold Crush in '98. Jazzy Joyce and Grant was the theater DJ. Oh, okay. Where was I? Melly Mel is #1 on my best rappers list of all time. Dope. Hey, Tracy. Hit the like, fam. Wow, Benny Doris, JT. I love these Tuesdays. I'm hating my job right now, and this community is a sense of relief twice a week. Wow, thanks, Benny Doyle. Sorry to hear that you're hating your job. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the money and do whatever you can to make the time pass by. Um, and on that note, for those that's just tuning in, I will not be here on Friday. Will not be here on this Friday. I'm going to move the Friday live to Saturday. People Jones, and when did Melly Mel become a grandmaster, or was that just some record company trickery to cut out Flash? It was record company trickery. Um, because it was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and then at some point, Flash was no longer even. I mean, I read Flash's book, and he was beefing with Sugar Hill and Sylvia Robinson, and he was no longer even recording with the group. even the message and all that. He wasn't in the record. And then Melly Mel was looking to get more recognition, and he started calling himself Grandmaster Melly Mel. And I believe when they went to court, Flash took Sylvia Robinson to court to fight for his rightful publishing and royalties. And on one side was Flash, and I believe a couple members of the Furious Five, and on the other side, sitting next to Sylvia Robinson, the owner of Sugar Hill, was Grandmaster Melly Mel. He sat with Sylvia Robinson. Well, that's a tough one, man. If y'all ever get a chance, check out Flash's book. I know it's out of print, but very interesting. Uh, let's see. Yeah, Mo D murdered Busy B, man. Murdered him. Murdered him. Kumo D is number 2 on my best rappers list of all time. They were also kidding. What year did the African movement fade out of hip hop? And is Isis and Lin Q the same person? Yes, Isis and Lin Q are the same person. And I used to see Lin Q out and about, and she was always nice to me. Even when BDP had the beef with X Clan, I know everybody here saw that video breakdown that I did. Um, she was still super nice to me. So shout out to Lin Q. When did the African movement fade? Well, let's see. 1990, 91, X Clan was still rocking the African movement, and people still had medallions. 90, and then like 92, Arrested Development, I think they had like the African garb. um 91, 92. De La Soul is Dead. They kind of came away from that and started changing up their look a little bit. I'm going with a last group I could really remember after X Clan was then Arrested Development. That big album they had in 92. I could think after that, the East Coast kind of went into like the Timberland backpack look for a minute. 92 was that Timberland backpack sweat hood look for a minute. The DOS Effects, Naughty, Tribe, all of them had switched to that look. So I would say 92. I'm going with 92 on that, off the top of my head. Hannibal Moore, I don't want to butcher your name, but thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Um, Says, I just finished your audio book. Oh, thank you for purchasing the book. Outstanding. Thank you. So many untold stories, humor, tragedy to triumph, and a lot of second shoe dropping. Yes. The fact that y'all are here and doing well is a testament to you and KRS. Thank you so much for purchasing the book and enjoying the story and getting the gist of what I was trying to tell. Um, it's a real true story, and it's different than everybody else's story. And I always say this: I believe that I lived through and witnessed at the same time a miracle. For me to be here, for my life to be here was a ridiculous challenge. But to see what my brother went through and for him to reach the heights that he did in this profession that he chose, which is the only thing he ever wanted to do in his life, is I literally watched a miracle. It was like a miracle. But thank you so much for purchasing the book. Thank you so much for your kind words too. Um, let's see. Um, Yo, KP, how did Adam Morrison flame out so quickly when he hit the NBA? Word. I think that some people be in the right system at the right time. And if you put them on some of the others, another school, they might not be as great. But you put them on that school in that system with control of the ball. Adam Morrison was a ridiculous college basketball player. Same like Fredette, ridiculous college players, but it did not translate. Adam Morrison was supposed to be the new Pistol Pete. Um, I think it's very difficult for white players to translate to the NBA. The athleticism level and speed and quickness and talent at the NBA level, even a outstanding white college basketball player, because a lot of the people who are great, like Duke players in particular, who are great white college players, it's very difficult for that to translate into the pros. You'd have to be a deadly shooter, like JJ Redick had a long career because of his shooting, or be very, very crafty with the ball, like a Mark Price. John Stockton is a handful, but for the most part, Adam Morrison fits that mold of a player, a white player, but a player who was in the right team at the right time. And now, I mean, the white NBA player is almost extinct. I mean, if you take away the Europeans, there's a handful. Shout out to Austin Reeves on LA, but there's like a small handful, man, that can really make that adjustment. Kenny, you know there were like 4 political rap records before The Message in 1982. I don't really recall them. There could have been maybe independent. I don't really recall. Not, but it didn't hit like The Message hit. And whatever these records were, it didn't start the trend. I personally, can you name them? Because I don't even remember these records. Because I remember when The Message came out, what they were talking about sounded like nothing we had ever heard before. And Melly Mel's rhymes, what rhymes he had already said in another record. That's another very controversial record, The Message. We've talked about that here on this channel. Um, Mr. Driggins said, Raheem is my favorite MC of that era. I met Raheem in All the Ladies' Dreams. I met him before. Uh, but Kaz is my favorite out of the big three, Kaz, Mel, and Mo. I wish Kaz had a big record. M's verse on Renegade, rapping for his life. Um, at least Hank should have done was give Kaz a guest spot on Rappers Alike. Us in New York was like, who are these dudes? Kaz would have given it more credibility. Yeah, but for the most part, like me, I didn't even know who the Furious Five was either. So if the record was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, I lived in Brooklyn at the time. If Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five had dropped, I wouldn't have known who they were either. I wouldn't know who the Treacherous Three were. I wouldn't have known who Funky 4+1 was. So to me, Sugar Hill Gang was about as a novel a group as any of them would have been. But up in the Bronx, it would have made sense because Flash and all these guys were already big up there. But for the world, we didn't know any of these people. I lived in New York my whole life. I was in Brooklyn. I never heard of any of these people. I mean, I was very young, but um, Hank did the biggest sucker move ever, ever. And there's other stories about Hank too. I'm not gonna say, but I've heard other things. He was a sucker, man. Not trying to disrespect the dead, but that was terrible what he did. Um, All Positive Network. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Hey Kenny, has KRS successfully claimed and mastered the criminal minds yet? Or if he hasn't, who owns it today? Well, first of all, I don't know who owns the master, but they sure licensed it out to many people, including Sugar Hill. Criminal Minded has been on so many different labels. I've never heard Chris mention that he got his masters back from Criminal Minded. You also got to understand that was an independent record label. They had never even done rap before. B-Boy Records was Rock Candy Records in distribution. They were doing porn, and I think they were just getting into music. They literally had like an office in the front where they were dealing with rap, making records, and was doing porn in the back. Scott and Chris found a real shady company that was willing to give them a chance. And they found the right record in South Bronx, and it was on. But I've never heard Chris mention that. That's a question that he would have to ask. Benny Dog Kenny, what do you think of King Von? What are you trying to get me blasted? um, I'm gonna be very careful with my words about him. I did watch the documentary. There's a couple. I watched the like 3 hour documentary on King Von, and he was in that Chicago life. Um, I'm gonna say he was a scary individual. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not trying to get, somebody use what I say as a reason for drama. But for those of you that don't know who King Von is, go to YouTube, type in King Von. There's an interesting documentary about him. Gary McLean was on Sports Illustrated cover. Yep. Hi. Latrice Washington in the mix. This is a great Tuesday. Yes. I'm falling way behind, so I'm going to do my Benny Doyle scroll down in a minute. Pharoah Monch is my top 5 MCs of all time, maybe even top 3. The things he does all while having asthma. Sheesh. Big up to Pharoah Monch. Orrin Hamilton, what up? Um, who I got in the final 4, I'm not sure. Rod Justice says King Von went to the same high school that I attended. At the same time? Kenny, how many hours did it take for you to record the audio book? I didn't do it all at one time. I did it over years. It's a whole story. I'm going to save it for when we talk about it. When we do the live, I'm going to break it all down. But that took a long time. I thought Greg Oden was going to come in and dominate. Me too. His injury really cost him. I remember one time listening to Mike and the Mad Dog. For those that's not from the New York area, well, Mad Dog is now national, but there used to be a show called Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN AM. And I stopped listening to them after a while because their attitudes and their I know everything and nobody else knows anything, and their condescending tone to the callers kind of turned me off. But they are very knowledgeable people, but you don't have to be condescending to people. But I used to listen to them every day, and I remember that draft was coming up, and some caller called in and said they think that Kevin Durant should be the #1 pick over Greg Oden. And Mike and the Mad Dog destroyed this caller, literally destroyed him. And they were saying Greg Oden is going to be the next great big man, like a defensive player, like a Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem. Like he was projected like that. And they were saying Kevin Durant. They said, well, let's say Kevin Durant ends up being as good as Tracy McGrady is. And as Tracy McGrady was the big star then. They said, let's say his ceiling is Tracy McGrady. You still take Greg Oden over him. because his ceiling is just going to be that much higher. And they just knew for sure. They were just so, they really destroyed this dude who said that. And as history will show, that unfortunately Greg Oden got hurt and never had a chance to live up to his promise. And Kevin Durant's ceiling was considerably higher than even Tracy McGrady's. So they were 100% wrong. But just like all the other pundits, you can have an opinion. And some guys have insight, like a Stephen A. These guys, they know the players, they know the agents, they get a lot of inside scoop. So they have a little more insight than we do. But at the end of the day, you can't predict the future. Your guess is as good as mine. And I point the finger at myself in some regards. When I talk about hip hop and I talk about stuff on this channel, I've been in the music business for 30. This is my 36th year. Started in 1990, and I started in 1989, and I was around before that with my brother, but I wasn't in the game. But I got in the game in 89, 90, and like I said, I feel that I have a lot of experiences enough to, when I make a comment, I feel like it's coming from somewhere with a person with experience. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. I've been wrong. I've been wrong on this channel. I've probably been wrong in this live right now. So just because somebody has uh expertise or experience doesn't mean you're supposed to talk condescending to people. That's what I don't like, because you don't know what the future holds. To say that Kevin Durant's not going to be that great, he'll be an all-star, that's the best he could ever be. Like, nah, you were wrong. I would love to see Mike and the Mad Dog so I could give it to them over that. Anyway, that's a long-winded rant. I might have to scroll down for sure. Oh, we got some chats here. JT, thank you so much. Says, hey, KP, I think you really might have to rethink your plans and consider writing another book. Got the money set aside, just waiting. It just took a lot out of me to write that book. As you guys know that read it, to write that book, to write a story about your life, you have to really go to that place. You have to physically and mentally go to that place in order to tell a story. And it was very difficult for me at some points. And I had to do it over and over, and then do the audiobook. I had to do it again, and it was tough. Plus, it's kind of hard in this day and age to get people to read. So a lot of times it's better to just tell it a lot of stories that I do, like epic fails and different things, would be like a part two to my book. So I figured sometimes it's better for me to just talk to you guys like this. Um, but if I write another book, I mean, I could pick up where the other book left off, because a lot of my book is family stuff too. So there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of family stuff that was happening in 90, 91, 92 up till now. I don't know how much of that I would tell. I'd have to talk to Chris and get his blessing like I did the first time. You guys would be very surprised the amount of things that's going on in BDP in my time. Um, that's a conversation for another day, I guess. CMC, you already know. Plug One was asked in an interview, what record do you wish you did? Plug One said it would have to be The Message, then proceeds on why. I think The Message is the greatest single rap song ever made. The number one song of all time is The Message. For what it meant at that time, for what it said, The Message still resonates today. The group that did it, the beat that's sampled and spawned multiple million selling records after that, I think it's the most important rap song of all time. But there is controversy behind that song too. Not equal to Rapper's Delight, but right up there in my opinion. Let's see. Oh, happy birthday to DJ Premier. Last Sunday, 60 years strong. Yeah, man, 60 years young. Yeah, that's my dude. You know, I got on my DJ Premier sweatshirt right now. Um, my Gangstar sweatshirt that I got from Premier. Um, as you guys can see, I have the wireless mic on and I have the Gangstar sweatshirt that Preem hooked me up with that I wear when it's chilly in here and I have to keep the heat off, um, so it doesn't make noise in the live. Um, yeah, that's my guy, man. Yeah, I would love to get him on this channel one day. I asked him to come on, so we'll see what happens. Uh, I'm gonna scroll down in a second. I just want to get a couple. Um, People think it's foul that Jordan didn't want to play with certain players, but foul on who? The player in charge could have chosen those players over him. The people in charge could have chosen. Yeah, they said Jordan never said he didn't want Isaiah Thomas. He just said they asked him to be on the team, and he said, "Is Isaiah Thomas gonna be there?" So now, when someone says something like that, and the answer is, "Oh, no." If you'll play, if this guy doesn't show up, oh hell yeah. But there was a few people that co-signed that. It wasn't just Mike, but he was very powerful. And I'm sure that's not the first or last time things like that have happened. It's just the one that we heard about. All right. I like this comment right here. Hey KP, class is now in session platform. I enjoy being a fly on the wall, absorbing all of your hip hop knowledge. Respect this live stream. Salute. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's the purpose of this channel. Me just trying to give you guys and the future people from 300 years from now that's going to go back and look at this era, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Um, just trying to give my experience to you guys, because if I don't tell it when I'm gone, it's gone. And I feel like I've been around so much wild stuff that I'm like, I gotta get all of this out before it's too late. But thank you so much. DJ Soulsmith's African Phase ended 92 max. Yeah, I would say that. The African movement faded when NWA hit the scene. I wouldn't say NWA, I'd say the Chronic, because NWA hit the scene in 88, 89 when they was strong. Strong 89 when Straight Outta Compton was out. Then Ice Cube dropped um, America's Most Wanted. He says some MCs say they're too black. Put them overseas, they be begging to come back. He wasn't big on Africa at all. Um, but still, the African garb and all that was strong in 1990. Uh, there's probably a few other groups I'm not thinking about, but even same song. I know that was a Digital Underground same song. I know that was a theme movie, but I think they had on African garb. Didn't Tupac have on like a whole African garb? I don't know if that was the theme of the movie. I never saw the movie, but um I wouldn't say NWA. Gangster rap exploded 1991, but it was still there. I would say it was on its way out the door when NWA hit, but by 92 it was over. All right. Um, I'm gonna scroll down now. Shout out to Benny Doyle and G Doyle. I'm gonna scroll down now because I'm super behind and I hate it. Hannibal says, I don't know, KP. Flag, Austin Reeves, Conquer Nipple. Had to look up the spelling of pretty good white guys. Yeah, you had a surge. Austin Reeves been in the league for 7 years, so I'm not going to count him. But in recent days, you have there's a couple. You got to figure there's 400 NBA players. So you get 3 or 4 white dudes out of 400. What's that? Less than 1%? That's not good considering the ratio of white people to black people in America, and you get 1% of them are really, I mean, there's probably a handful more, but, and these guys are super nice. You're talking about Austin Reeves, before he got hurt, was going to be not only an all-star, he's playing at an all-pro level. Conker Nipple is probably the rookie of the year this year. And he's at an all-star, right under all-star level. And Cooper Flag is, I think him and Wemby could run this league, potential wise. Um, but yeah, there's a handful, but it's tough out there. Uh, all right, let me jump down a little bit, little bit. Okay, here's look like a good spot. It's only like 5 minutes behind. KD up there, KD up in here with his burner account. Hey, KD probably on this chat. I am a huge KD fan. Somebody asked me last week, y'all all know I love Luca. And they asked me who did I like before him, and I mentioned that I really liked Steph Curry a lot, but I forgot to mention Kevin Durant. I love Kevin Durant is an absolute scoring machine. He's literally a machine, and he was one of my favorite guys to watch. And there was a time when Kevin Durant could look LeBron James right in his eyes, like, you're the best in the league, but I'm right there. We look at each other eye to eye. He was great. He's still averaging 25 points a game, and he's like 37. Um, but that burner thing really hurt him, though. I think that messed up the team chemistry. That was very. I don't know. I'm not in the NBA, so what do I know? But that stuff seems very childish. What is it about Odin is he was drafted by Portland? He would have shined if another team drafted him. Trailblazers are cursed. Remember Sam Bowie? Yeah, man. I always see how Bob Knight of Indiana, rest in peace to him. I'm not a fan of his coaching tactics, but he was a legendary basketball mind. And he always says how he coached the 84 Olympics when they had college players. And he said in 84 that Michael Jordan was the best basketball player he had ever seen in his life. In 84, and it's a college kid. He said he is the best player he's ever seen in his life. And he said he had a friend on the Trailblazers and he pleaded with this guy, you have to draft Michael Jordan at 2. You have the second pick in the draft. You got to draft Jordan. And the guy was like, we already have Clyde Drexler, who was an all-star and a future top 50 player, but he was an all-star. He said, we need a big man. And Bob Knight said, draft him and play him at center, but you better draft him. And they said, no, we went for the best big man out, who was Sam Bowie. And that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. I understand Elijah Wan going 1. I understand that. That was the right pick. But that Sam Bowie pick, I mean, they needed a center. They already had 2. They had 2 great guards because they had Paxson, who was an all-star, and Drexler. They did not need another guard, but sometimes they say you pick the best player available. That probably came from that draft. Kenny, what advice would you give to someone thinking about writing a book? Wow. Um, well, if it's a book of a personal, see, there's fictional books, there's, you know, nonfiction books about a specific topic, say politics, say you're writing about someone else. I'm writing a book about Barack Obama. I'm gonna do some research and I'm gonna compile a bunch of things and I'm gonna write a story. That's a little different. My only expertise, not expertise, my only experience is writing about myself. Um, and my advice is A, you have to take yourself to that place. You have to literally, if you're writing about a certain point in your life, you have to literally go there and feel you have to feel it. It's not just so much to say it, you have to put yourself there to say, what were you feeling? What were you thinking? What was going on around you? And it could be tough, like I mentioned. And write everything you could possibly think about and then whittle it down. That's what I did. I originally wrote the book that you guys have, those that have it, is probably half of what I originally wrote. And then after I wrote everything, I trimmed off the fat and got the story down to what I think is the meat. But there was more to that story. There's a few other stories and a few other incidences that I think would be very interesting, but it was just would make it too long. Um, but I think I got the gist of the story. But my advice would be, if you're writing about yourself, that you have to go to that place, what you can remember. And even before I started writing a book, I was writing in my mind, like I'm like Hove. No, I was writing it in my mind, kind of conceptualizing what I wanted to do. But then I went and took a trip around New York. I went to all of the old places where I used to live, and I just looked around just to get a feel and jog my memory. But I'm gonna save all of this for when I do the actual conversation. But that's a great conversation. I'm gonna bring that back around. Um, I'm gonna bring it back around when we talk. How many times did you cry while writing your book? I didn't cry at all, but I don't know if you read the book, Rogers. You probably did, but there's some parts that's very difficult. Um, I didn't cry, but it made me very sad because some of this stuff I hadn't thought about in decades. It just is, in the past, and I'm moving forward. But then to have to go back to that time and to really explain it to you guys, I had to really like put myself there. But I didn't cry, but there's some tough parts. I don't want to give it away for people who haven't read it, but there's a part when I was 15 years old that's probably the toughest part of the book to relive. But I don't want to spoil it for the people who didn't read it. Um, we got a super chat. KB Play, what up? Thank you. Arrested Development was big in '92, though. They won a Grammy, not to mention Malcolm X movie came out that year. Yeah. I mentioned Arrested Development, that whole Tennessee, and I love Tennessee. I loved Mr. Wendell too. I thought Mr. Wendell, a song about homelessness. I loved Mr. Wendell, and I loved, of course, Everyday People was the jam of jams. They had the African garb. They was going around even with no shoes. They were like on a plantation in Atlanta, right? Doing videos. Um, I only met one of them. I think I did tell you guys this. The girl in the group who was doing all the ad libs, one of the dopest ad libbers of ever, the one who goes, my own, trouble zone, that girl. We did a show in Atlanta back in like 95 or 6 maybe, and she came to the show. She was in the dressing room. I remember she walked up to me and was like, "Wow, you're big." That's the first thing she said. "Wow, you're big." I was just like, "Nice to meet you." She wasn't even like, "Hello." She was just like, "Wow, you're big." Trouble zone. That's what I should have said to her. But yeah, I think the African movement kind of ended around 92. Laney says, Large Pro, happy belated. Of course, that's my brother, Large Pro. Y'all already know. Um, Ben Simmons flamed out because of that Kardashian girl. Is the Kardashian curse real, y'all? Ben Simmons, but even he was an all-star. He at least had moments, but he's one of the most perplexing players. Like he like lost his desire. Like he needs a hypnotist or something. What's your number two rap song? Well, I think the most important rap records of all time. The Message being number one and Rapper's Delight being number two, probably, are the two most important records because, of course, Rapper's Delight kicked off the whole thing. And that was the biggest selling 12-inch single of all time. Rap exploded. I don't know if people were too young or to remember when Rapper's Delight hit. It exploded onto the scene. Um, and it was a great launching for rap for the world. I would say my second most important record is Rapper's Delight. And I got my picture of me and Master G over here. I got my picture of me and Flash over here. Um, what would be my third important record? There's records that I love, like of course Super Rhymes is one of my favorites of all time, but Freedom by Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5, one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, in this picture right here, I'm holding Freedom and I asked Flash to sign it. It's the only record I ever got signed by anybody. I'm holding my copy of Freedom. Um, but I think the third record is probably Sucker MCs. The emergence of Run DMC changed rap and saved rap. I believe rap music was on its way out. It got a little syrupy and a little faddish, and it started going in a direction. And when that boom, bap, 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 when that hit, and Run DMC arrived 2 years ago, a friend of mine, that was the reflipping of the game. Those are my top three most important records of all time. The Message, Rapper's Delight, Sucker MCs, for me. I'm talking important. I didn't say the best or lyrical. I'm talking about importance to rap. Game-changing records. Um, let's see. This is interesting, Hannibal. Why didn't Isaiah's own coach stand up for him? Why ain't Zeke more upset with his own coach? Yeah, because his coach was the coach of the dream team. um, Detroit Pistons coach coached the dream team. That's why I say there was more to the story. It wasn't, first of all, Michael Jordan was that powerful in 92 that if he said I would not play, it would affect the dream team that much. And as we saw on the court, I believe Jordan and Charles Barkley were the two best players on the team. Um, Not best in the Olympics. Um, But there were other people that had an issue with Isaiah. That's why I think Chuck Daly said, you know what? This is a battle that I can't win. And there's more to the story. To get Michael Jordan, there's other players grumbling, and you have a chance to coach the Olympic team. Let me just shut up. It's probably what he said. I don't know, but I gotta imagine that. That was when Magic got diagnosed as well. A lot of foul stuff was said, G2. Yeah. Um, I remember Karl Malone was one of the most vocal people that did not want Magic to play in what I consider the greatest All-Star game performance I ever saw. When Magic retired, but he came back to play in the All-Star game. And Karl Malone said he didn't want to play with him. He didn't want him touching him. And at that time, it was a tough thing to say, but at that time, AIDS was a death sentence. And we didn't really even understand it that well. The average person didn't. But that was it's amazing that Magic survived AIDS in 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 1992. That's one of the great sports mysteries that should be investigated, how Magic beat that. My conspiracy theory is they had the cure already. And I think he probably got it messing around in a Playboy mansion and caught it. And those guys, those Hugh Hefner level people, gave him the cure. I have no facts to back this up. This is pure conspiracy theory. But I think it should be investigated how Magic beat that. In 92, you caught HIV/AIDS. I remember Larry Bird said when he heard that, he cried like a baby. It was over. And he beat it. But I don't know. Let's see. The game changed when Cube dropped the Predator. I think the game changed when Dre dropped the Chronic. Kenny, did KRS work on a Jazzy Jeff beat? Imagine if your situation worked out and KRS went on a Jazzy Jeff beat. That would have been dope. I don't know if he ever worked with Jazzy Jeff, not to my knowledge. Um, we need Terrell McMillan in here for that one. Um, Shout out to Jazzy Jeff, who have I met twice. Uh, there's quite a few people in KRS's peak that would have been very interesting for him to work with. I don't know if Jazzy Jeff's sound and KRS's sound go together, but it would have been interesting what they could have came up with. Hypestyle says it would have been dope if the African movement would have continued well into the 2000s in hip hop when more Southern acts were becoming popular. No, I think everything has its time. The centric vibe was probably from like 88 Jungle Brothers to like 92. That was the time. Gangster rap had its time. The Puff Daddy Versace shirt era had its time. Down South trap and all that. It's just everybody has their time. I mean, it would have been cool if that era. But I say it would have influenced a lot more kids. But you also got to understand that rap was at its most dangerous during the African garb era. All of that African garb and medallions and Malcolm X, fist in the air. You went to a club in 1991, 92. It was real. I was out there in them streets. It was real. Did JMJ do the production for Run DMC? No, I thought sheesh. Rick Rubin. was the main producer. Well, no, lies, I tell you. Larry Smith, the great Larry Smith, who I talk about all the time on this channel, I believe he produced the first two Run DMC albums. And then Rick Rubin did Raising Hell. And then other people started producing. But those first three gigantic ones, I don't think it was JMJ. I mean, I'm sure he had his hand in there, but he wasn't um he wasn't even a credited producer, to my knowledge. Reeves is a good player, not a superstar. I didn't say he was a superstar. I said this year he was having an all-pro season. He was averaging 28, 7, and 7 on a team that was a three seed or a 2 seed. Then he got hurt for that month. He was balling out. He had 50, 40. He was killing them. I didn't say he was a superstar. I said he was playing at an all-pro level. There are people that are all-pro level players that I wouldn't consider a superstar, like Cade Cunningham and Jaylen Brown. These are excellent players, but I don't consider them superstars. They're just very good players. LeBron is a superstar. KD, Steph, Luka, these people are superstar level. Not just what they do on the court, but their uh, recognition around the world. Yeah, I think so, Patrick. I don't even think Magic, Zeke's best friend at the time, or Chuck Daly fought to get Isaiah on the Dream Team. No MJ, no Dream Team. Exactly. Exactly. It was no Michael Jordan, no Dream Team. And of course, if Michael Jordan was like, nah, Scotty would have been like, nah. Remember that game, though? Here's a real sucker move. Remember the game right after they announced that Isaiah wasn't going to be on the Dream Team and John Stockton was instead? Maybe not instead, but I'm going to say instead because I'm going to say that was Isaiah's spot. Stockton is great, but he's not Isaiah Thomas to me. And you remember the game right after that when Utah played Detroit and Isaiah gave Stockton 40 something, and then Isaiah was driving to the lane and Karl Malone elbowed him in his face and bust his whole nose open. Y'all remember that? Karl Malone is a sucker. His stuff he did in his personal life, that dude is a real creep. But I remember that specifically because I'm not an Isaiah Thomas fan at all. I used to like him in the early 80s, but I grew to hate him as a bad boy Piston, but I respect him. And he was giving it to Stockton, and Karl Malone saw that and bust his whole face open, man. It was terrible. I remember that because I was watching that game. Let's see. Marquise says Jalen Brunson is good, but the Knicks need great. Well, everyone needs great, but I think Jalen Brunson is borderline great. I think he's a top 10 player in the league. And in the fourth quarter, he's great. I think I think he is very good for 3 quarters and great in the fourth quarter. The Knicks need Cat to be dominant. That's who they need to be dominant. Oh shoot, is it 9:30? We are in overtime, y'all. For those that's new to the channel, once we go past 9:30, we are officially in OT. Um, This is the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This particular Friday, I will not be doing the Kenny Parker Show. I will be at the KRS-One show, and I'm going to move it to tomorrow. I'm going to move it to Saturday, 8 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m., I'm shooting to do the show. And big up to the Rewind crew who's gonna check this out later on. Um, let me do what I normally do at 9:30, which is scroll down to the very bottom. Luca is seeking dismissal of child custody petition. Yeah, that is so ugly. I don't like talking about people's personal life. I'm gonna leave that alone. But what what we've seen in the tabloids is so ugly, man. It's amazing how you could be in love with a person and a year later could be mortal enemies. I always found out to be just an astonishing human dynamic. How you a person that you would take a bullet for one moment is a person that you would try to shoot in the next moment. It's crazy. Um, Kevin Durant is a top 5 all-time player. I think he's a top 3 all-time scorer. I would have him in like in the 10 range for me. I don't have him in a 5 range, but there's an argument for that next 5. I have him around in the 10. I think he's a top 10 all-time player. Um, People says top 15, I'd say. I have him at 10 to fit, in that bracket. You could say 12 or 11 or something like that. Kenny, I noticed a lot of big men were shooting 3-pointers more more and more these days in the NBA. Disgusting to me, but that's the modern game. um, let's see. I said I was going to scroll down to the bottom. All right. Damn, there's a lot of comments. All right, let me jump in right here. At Kenny Parker, if you're coaching a dream team and you could have Michael Jordan or Isaiah Thomas, who you going to have on that team? First of all, I don't believe there was any love lost between Bird and Isaiah. Bird and the Celtics and the Detroit didn't have a lot of love lost either. Like I'm saying, there wasn't a lot of love for Isaiah Thomas um, and Detroit, but talent wise, he was absolutely supposed to be on that team. Matter of fact, well, he was older than. I mean, he was on his 10th year in the league, but I'm trying to think of who he should. There's a couple of players on that team that I would say did not have that stature of Isaiah. Because if you look at it, okay, we're not gonna count Christian Laettner. They had to put the college kid. I absolutely love and adore my New York brother Chris Mullin, but he was not over Isaiah Thomas at that time. Um, Neither was Stockton. I'm looking at the big men. You had Patrick Ewing, David Robinson were the 2 centers. So you keep them. Karl Malone, you keep him. Charles Barkley, Scotty. Scotty is a great player on the Bulls, but he wasn't to me. I don't know if he's over Isaiah Thomas at that moment. The Bulls had won 1 championship. I mean, he's younger, but I don't know, man. Magic and Bird had to be on that team just because. Um, but Bird was super hurt. Bird, he was hurt. But I'm gonna say Magic and Bird. But there's like two or three people that I would question that Isaiah shouldn't have been on that team. It's not just the college kid, man. That was really, mm. And I'm not a fan at all. JT says, LOL, we were keeping it quiet about OT. I forgot the time, man. Oh, that's funny. Who is this late person jumping in? Hot Wangs. Yo, you are super late, Hot Wangs. Uh, let's see. The up and coming Jay-Z show at Yankee Stadium. That's gonna be a movie. I'm sure he's gonna bring a bunch of people to the. This could be crazy. I would go to the Reasonable Doubt one for me. Um, let's see. People sleep on Tim Duncan. Saw him in person when he played at Wake Forest, and it was wild. Do they sleep on? They sleep on Tim Duncan because he wasn't exciting, but he's the greatest power forward that ever lived. I don't know if people sleep on him. I sure don't. I saw him one time in New York walking down the street, looking all of 7 feet. I've seen quite a few NBA players. I would actually do a list of NBA players who I've seen walking around in New York. Quite a few. I saw Tim Duncan coming out of like a Nike store. It was like a grand opening of a Nike store, and he was coming out. Durant is going to be one of the top four scorers ever. He has 2 titles, 2 Finals MVPs, and a league MVP. He might be more than top four scorers ever. If he plays another 3 years or 4 years, he could be at two. Well, wait, no, you're right, because he'd have to pass Kareem. He could, and he probably passes Malone. Nobody's gonna play like LeBron is. I don't think anyone's gonna play the 40 something. But you're right. He could be a top four, top three scorer. He has 2 titles. He did it with Golden State though. That's tough. But he did. He was great. He was the best player on the floor for most of those games and a league MVP. He's great, man. He's like a 10. He's like a top 10, man. Um, and I'm an old school dude. I don't give a lot of these. Let me say I don't give. I don't place a lot of the newer guys over some of the older guys and what they did. But Kevin Durant is in a different story. Zeke and Dominique should have been on that team. What was Dominique doing in 91, 92? He was older, right? I can't remember. I mean, of course, there's people that got left off that could have been on it. Absolutely, Dominique could have been on it. But his style of play may not have fit because he liked to shoot a lot. I don't know. Kings County Mully wasn't over Zeke. And I love Chris Mullin. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And he deserved to be on the dream team. Absolutely. And he was on the Olympic team in 84 too. I'm just saying he was not, there's no measurement that you can measure that says he was over Isaiah Thomas at that point to me, except he was young. But I and he's not that much younger. Isaiah came in the league in what, 82, 81, 82? And Chris Mullin came in 84, 85, 85. He's like 3 or 4 years younger. I know Mullen was on fire at that point, but I would pick Gary Payton. Payton was great. I don't know if he was over Stockton though. Hannibal says Detroit just did a lot of sucker-ish during their bad boy days, but Zeke should have been there over Stockton easily. Yeah, that's the consensus. They did a lot of sucker shit in their time when they were winning. They won ugly on and off the court, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Chuck Daly's lucky he was the coach. Mitch Richmond, Gregory Nettis, he was dope. True, Dominique and Zeke should have replaced Scotty and Stockton. But if Jordan is coming, you know Scotty coming. Scotty was great too. He wasn't. Scotty was. He wasn't over Zeke, man, and he wasn't over Neek. Zeke and Neek. There's an argument for that, Imperial. There's an argument for that. There's an argument for that. Uh, uh, let's see. Mark Thompson said, I thought I was watching a rewind. Yeah, we've been on here so long. I'm jumping off in a second. Uh, let's see. Who's DJing at the KRS show Friday? I'm not sure. My point is that you can't have Isaiah and Michael. Having both of them on the team was not an option. Right. And Jordan Jordan could have probably literally said anybody in that dream team could have been off, and he would have said that. Like it could have probably been anybody. But he wanted to play not just for the ball, but to be around those guys. I think he was studying his opponents, and he wanted to be around those guys. And the only person he did not want to be around is Zeke. They still got beef to this day, man. Um, how many NBA players have you seen stumble out of the club? I don't know about stumble, but I've seen Anthony Mason out of the club. I was in a party one time DJing in Manhattan, and Kenny the Jet came in. And I remember it was so funny because I was playing, this is in like the early 2000s. I was doing a reggae set, old school reggae set, and Kenny the Jet was dancing with some girl, and he was going in reggae. I want you guys to picture Kenny the Jet dancing reggae like bogling or something. I just want y'all to picture that in your mind, how funny that is. All right, I'm jumping off, y'all. I'm jumping off. I'm jumping off. LeBron is about to squeeze one more year. Of course, he wants that farewell tour. What? Drazen Petrovic, a name that should be mentioned a lot more. Oh, that's right, Philly She. Neek blew out his Achilles. It was before 92? That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you. See somebody mentioned Felipe Lopez. Yo, he was supposed to be the one. He peaked in high school. Mullen was there for three-point shooting. I agree. And plus, we didn't know how much Bird was going to play. But that team. Yeah, you needed shooting, but Isaiah could shoot the three. See, y'all don't understand how much I love Chris Mullen, too, by the way. I was St. John's. That was my guy. But just for argument's sake that we're having here, um, mm, Philly, she said Gary Payton wasn't in the conversation in 92. 96, yeah, but no way in hell in 92. I can hear that, Philly She. Philly She's breaking it down right now. Let's go, Philly She. Uh, Hannibal says facts. Chuck said sold Zeke out to be the dream team coach. I don't know. We can't say that for sure, but it sure kind of looks like it. I'm loving this conversation, y'all, but we going too long, man. I'm gonna jump off. You know what's funny about Joe Dumars? He's the only one of the bad boys that everybody shows love to. Everybody else, people hate it, but they always show love to Dumars, even Jordan. Um, let's see. Professor laugh out loud at Kenny the Jet. Yes. Whatever, let me tell you something. Whatever funny that you think it is, it's funnier than that. I was just looking at him. I'm like, yo, Kenny the Jet is going super hard with this girl. Wilkins was considered for the Dream Team, but a ruptured Achilles tendon in January '92 prevented him from participating. Thank you. Um, all right, I'm out of here, y'all. Let me scroll to the very bottom. I don't want. I'm loving this conversation, but you could smell nylon burning when Mullen was shooting. Yeah, man, that dude is one of the greatest. I thought he was the greatest shooter I had seen, but uh, Zeke is still sick. Yep, he never got over that. Mullins was a bad man. He was. He was. That's why I'm not trying to diss. I'm not trying to diss Mullen. I'm just saying. All right, let me get off here for Chris Mullen come on this channel and want smoke. All right, y'all. It's the Kenny Parker Show. I'm jumping off. Saturday. Let's go. Saturday. Let's do it. Unless things change, I will not be here on Friday. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you guys on Saturday. Peace.